I just want to do a quick video here for anybody that might be looking at putting some TRD Pro Fox shocks on your Tacoma, specifically the 17 to the 19 years, 2017 to 2019. If you're wanting to do the TRD Pro shocks with the Eibach TRD Pro Lift kit that goes with them, I just want to show you here real quick. This is the spring difference. So here's the spring off of the factory shock, and then here's the Eibach. I had my level in here I was measuring, and these are exactly 5/8 of an inch taller than the stock shocks, which is supposed to equate to about 1.5 inches of lift on the Pro, which already sets a little bit higher than the Sport, which is what I have. And so I had a hard time finding information on how much lift this would actually give me on the Sport. Somebody said maybe closer to 2. So we're gonna find out basically. I already have some lift blocks in the back of my Sport, and I'm gonna be putting these springs on these shocks here shortly. So I had a guy on the Tacoma forums on Tacoma World, had him rebuild them for me down in Texas. I mailed them off to him, and he put new oil in them, cleaned them up, some new bushings on the lower side, on the lower perch here, or the lower mounts, I'm sorry. The other ones were pretty wallered out. And then this top hat bushing up top was pretty worn out too on these. I bought these used, was kind of misled on how much use they had on them. They were pretty worn, so I had to get them rebuilt, which I had them on here before I had them rebuilt, and they rode really well. They just kind of squeaked and groaned a little bit, I think because the shaft was rubbing the actual top hat. And you cannot buy this bushing alone, or I can't find it anywhere online, so I had to buy new top hats from KYB. I'm gonna replace them here and swap them out, so mostly new components now. And we're gonna slap these in the truck as soon as I get these on the spring compressor, which from what I understand, you have to use kind of one of the wall mounted compressors or the clamshell style ones, because I guess the typical ones you can rent from the auto parts store that are like the all thread, that you can't hardly get them back out once you get them on the shock, because these are a longer shock and the coil spacing's pretty tight. So we're gonna do that next, and then I'm gonna put them in the truck and just kind of do a quick video on what lift it gave me and how they ride afterwards. So not gonna be an install video just because there's plenty of those online already, but just wanted to show this because I wasn't able to really find anything online talking about it, going with the TRD Pro shocks with the Eibach lift into a sport or an off-road. Everybody was kind of talking about the TRD Pro, so this is just going to be kind of like a Frankenstein deal here, but I'll update you as soon as we get them put in here. Also, anyone not familiar with the shock setup at all, or the top hat itself, that bushing I was showing you here that has kind of this thin metal jacket on top that kind of slides up through the top hat right here, that actually goes in from the bottom side of the top hat. So here's your top hat, it is this bushing right here, and it's almost like it's pressed into that metal top piece, kind of fits pretty tight in here, so it's kind of pressed in. And it's two pieces, it's the rubber bushing and the metal cap, but they come as part of the actual top hat assembly, and I just cannot find this bushing alone anywhere. If someone knows what that is, actually, you can post it down in the comments, it'd be great. I'll pin it to the top, or I'll put it in the description in case anybody else is having this issue. I'll also post in the description a link to one at the Tacoma forums I was looking at, where a guy put in some of the part numbers for these TRD Pro shocks. He didn't have them all, but he had a few of them, which is helpful in the future if you ever need to rebuild them. I think he had a lot of the parts up top, just didn't have a part number for the actual these press-in bushings that go in the bottom. Ian over there on the Tacoma World forums, he's the one that rebuilt these, and I had him press them in for me as part of the rebuild. I'm also going to be installing these 285 7017s. As soon as I get this lift installed, we're gonna make sure they fit okay. They should be okay. I did some measuring beforehand, and they are the Open Country, the Toyota Open Country AT3s. And the reason I went with those is that's what I have now, and I love them. And they are the lightest tire I could find. So I'm gonna try to not completely kill my gas mileage. And these were weighing in at around 40, I think they said they're 46 pounds a piece, but with my home scale, they're 43.5 a piece, which is only like 4 or 5 pounds heavier than the 265s I have on there right now. So just trying to keep the MPG heartburn down as much as I can here. Okay, so beforehand here, I got my 1-inch lift blocks in yesterday. I put them in so the back's already kind of jacked up a little bit. And right now I have, this is a Sport, but I have the TRD off-road shocks in here. I bought some takeoffs off of a wrecked truck. So these are the yellow Bilsteins instead of the blue TRD Sport shocks. And right now with those in here, I'm sitting right at, from the ground to the actual bottom of my fender, right at 35.5 on the passenger side. You can see there. There we go, 35.5. And let's hit the driver's side real quick. And on the driver's side, we are sitting right around 35 5/8 approximately. So we will see how much lift we have in here after this is installed. And I will do a quick measurement before we do the new tires too. That way we can see how much lift is on there before the tires increase the lift a little bit too. Okay, so got the Eibach springs installed. Went ahead and drove it and then had it aligned at my dad's shop. We were able to get on the alignment rack on Sunday and do that. So here is the springs installed. You can see they look pretty good in there. They're a little bit more bright red than the TRD Pro springs, but they look nice. And let's see what we got here for lift, or for height, for a comparison. So just going straight up from the ground, up straight through the hub. And on the passenger side, I'm just shy of 37.25. Let's see if I can kind of show you here. There we go. And let's see what the driver's side ended up at. And driver's side, let me get it centered up here on the hub. Straight up, I'm just a hair over 37.5. So a quarter, just shy of, 3/8 of an inch higher on the driver's side, which is interesting. I know they do compensate on the Fox shocks for the driver's side lean for the gas tank, which is, I think, 3/4 full right now. So a little more, I guess, lift on the drivers than I thought there might be. And just kind of show you here. So on that perch on the driver's side here, you can see that perch is, I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch above the sticker. And on the passenger side, it's a little bit lower down. It's maybe a 1/4 inch above the sticker. And when they were on the ground side by side, that is very noticeable. It's not just the stickers being off or out of place, it's actually higher on the driver's side. So all in all, I ended up with about 1.75 inches on the passenger side and 1 7/8 on the driver's side. And I'm not sure if these springs will settle out or not. I'm assuming they will a little bit. These coils, they'll probably settle some. And I did want to jump on one more thing real quick and just let you know, this was kind of difficult. It was okay for me because we had the wall-mounted spring compressor. But when you squeeze these coils down, you have to compress them quite a ways to get them on these shocks and get that top bushing on. And it doesn't leave much room between here once they're compressed down. So I think you would have a difficult time. You can see now there's not a ton of room. My thumb won't hardly fit in there sideways. If you had some of the larger all thread style compressors from like the auto parts stores, it might be difficult to get those out of here. I also had to touch up a little bit of paint that got scraped off the powder coating when I was compressing, just kind of the nature of using the compressor because you're putting metal against a painted surface. And I just got some red touch-up paint from AutoZone, and it's actually the same paint we use for my son's Ford Ranger. So the Ford red matches almost identically. You can't even hardly tell. So if you need to get some of that, you can use red nail polish. I think Eibach suggests that. I just wanted to use some actual automotive paint, and that worked well. So I'm gonna get the new tires installed tomorrow, going with the 33s, and we'll see what that looks like when we're done. I'm hoping I don't have any rubbing issues. I'm gonna be close on these rear mud flaps. I think I might just take them off before the appointment just to be safe, and then put them back on when we're done to see if they rub. Maybe a little close here as well. If that's the case, we'll get a heat gun and kind of bend some stuff out of the way. But I'm hoping with the 1 3/4 inches of lift or so that we'll be good. Okay, so after the lift and the new tires, I am at 37 5/8 on the passenger side. And on the driver's side, we are right at 38. So still higher on the driver's side. Nothing's really settled out quite yet. Okay, so my final thoughts on the Eibach coils. So on their site, they say that they have the same ride as factory, and it's the same spring rate, I believe. However, they do ride more stiff. So if you're wanting the factory plush ride of the TRD Pro coil, I'd say leave it alone, or you need to probably upgrade to a more expensive setup like King's or some of the adjustable Bilsteins that, you know, you're looking at spending probably upwards of $3,000 or more for something like that. So all in all, for the amount of lift you get and for the ride quality, I think this is a decent price for what these cost. I will say it's not a rigid ride by any means. It's just quite a bit more firm than the factory setup. So I've had Bilstein 5100s and 6112s. I had the 5100s on my old Tacoma, my 2015 second gen, and had the 6112s on my 2016 Tundra. And both of them, I had them set pretty close to the top perch for some lift, and they were quite a bit more stiff than this setup is. So you're definitely going to stiffen up the ride if you go this route. I was hopeful that it would be a lot closer to the actual soft ride that they were before with the factory coils, but you know, I'm not sure if that'll change after they've been broken in a little bit. I have had these on for 3 weeks now or so, and I've been on a couple of trails, and on the trails they ride great. I mean, if you're not going real fast, they soak up. You know, you're not bottoming out. It's more though of the higher speed, kind of the bumps and like potholes on the road. Those are a little more harsh than they were before. I may end up pulling the sway bar. I've done that on my last couple of trucks, and I know that's controversial. Some people think it's dumb. I've never had a problem with it. I have a lot of in-town driving with this. I don't drive the highway very often. You know, I'd say definitely if you're going to be on the highway, going highway speeds, leave that sway bar intact. But it does make a huge difference when you pull the sway bar on these trucks. You're just not transferring that, you know, that hit from one side to the other, and it soaks up those bumps in the road a lot easier and just a lot more comfortable ride for sure. You know, you'll hear people say like different shocks ride great, or it's much better than the stock ride. There's less nosedive, and that's always real subjective. I mean, everybody's opinion on what a, you know, quote unquote good ride is different. Some people think that's a nice Cadillac soft ride. Some people think that's a more stable, you know, controlled ride. And usually if you get the more stable controlled ride, you're going to have a little more of a firm ride with that. So anyways, I just want to let everybody know that because I thought some people would ask about the ride quality for sure. I think all in all, it's a good kit. I think it's way better than a spacer lift for sure. And these coils come from a good quality company. Eibach, you know, is definitely up there as far as quality goes. So thanks for watching, guys. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. So hope this helps people out. Have a good day.